Hello everyone, welcome to Tangle with Tracy Anne. Happy New Year to you all, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. My inspiration this week comes from one of my grandson's Christmas presents. It was find a gemstone kit, and the amethyst crystals remind me of Anthem, tangled by JODY Genovese. So today we'll be using a Zendala Tile, a micron 01 pen, pencil, white charcoal pencil and some tortillions. I'll also be using some watercolour pencils. I'm using Faber-Castell's Albrecht Durer Watercolour pencils, and I'm just going to select some purplish colours. You of course could use whatever watercolour pencils you have. Using a pencil, I'm going to draw a string. This is just going to give me a guide on where I'm going to put my crystals or my anthem. I'm using my finger to guide me around the tile so that I have a fairly even kind of a circle. Doesn't have to be perfect. Using my micron 01, I'm going to start drawing Anthem. On the very first one, I'm not going to draw the whole tangle, and you'll see why when we come to the end of this ring. I'm drawing randomly placed Anthem, varying the angle and varying the size and thickness. Now that we've got to the end, I can finish off that first anthem. The next thing I'm going to do is put an aura all the way around the outer and inner edges. The colours I've chosen are a mauve, a dark indigo, a magenta, a red violet and a purple violet. I will list these in the description below this video. I'll start with my purple violet, and I'm just going to randomly place little scribbles all around that inner circle. Just little patches here and there. And then I'm going to go through each of the pencils until I completely cover this interior section. I'll save my dark indigo until last, and I'll put that right around the outer edge, and that way it'll create a bit of a shadow. If you go over the edge a little bit, you can still erase these pencils before they're activated. Today I'll be using a water brush to activate these pencils, but you could of course use normal water and a paintbrush. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit of water out, and that's still a bit dry, so I'll give it another squeeze. There, nice and wet, and work that around, and be very careful around the edges. As you're going along, you might find that some areas dry before others, and this can cause a bit of a watercolour bloom. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but I'm going to try and keep each area nice and wet to prevent that from happening too much. You could of course use watercolour paints, and if you do that, I'd use the wet on wet method, which means wet that center area just with plain water before adding your colour. I probably squeezed a little bit too much out there. It would have been better to do it on my tissue. And you can see nice blooms starting to happen. Anyway, I'll work quickly and see if I can just blend those edges in a little bit. Once we get the tangling on, you really won't notice too much. I have a lot more pigment towards the edges, so one thing you can always do is just use your pencil to get a little bit more colour and add that. I'm going to use this Uniball-eye pen by the Mitsubishi pencil company to do a background. The beauty of these kind of pens are they're fine enough to go into those corners, but they let out lots of ink, so you get a good coverage. And this one seems to be a little bit dry, and you can see it has a window and that one's empty, so we'll use this new pen, and that's going on a lot better. It's really quite wet. As you go around your tile, you've got that wet area in the middle and now this wet edge, so be very careful where you place your hand. Make sure you also colour all that edge, and that will give you a nice even looking tile. I've got a pretty good coverage on this, but if you use a different pen and you find it looks a bit scratchy, you can use one of these thicker permanent office black pens and just go over it. You don't necessarily need to go right up into those corners, but it'll take that streaky looking effect. When that's completely dry, using my 01 pen, I'm going to draw some Anthem in the centre. Now I'll start first of all going around doing some bigger ones, and notice that the Anthem is all pointing towards the centre. I'll fill in that whole area using different sizes and different thicknesses. Some Anthem will be sitting behind others. I'm going to add some shade using my dark Indigo watercolour pencil, and notice I'm just putting it on that right hand side facet at the top and a little bit down the bottom around the edge. I'll now activate this colour with my water brush. If you find that you get too much pigment on your brush, just give it a little bit of a wipe, and you can use clear water to sort of blend it in those sections where I want it to blend up. I'm going to leave that center section to dry, and using a graphite pencil, add a little bit of shading to those outer anthems. I don't want to put too much graphite into this area, so I'm using a light touch. And you can see again, I'm shading that top right hand facet and also where the anthem overlap. If you can really see that string underneath, you can erase it and then blend that in. And the reason I am using an eraser here is because I'm going to add a little bit of watercolour. The watercolour will actually set the graphite and it won't be able to be erased once you've put that colour over it. Using my purple violet watercolour pencil, I'm very lightly going over the shading that I did with the graphite. I don't want too much pigment here because I want to keep that nice crisp white look. I just want a very slight hint of colour. I'll activate that now, but if I get too much pigment on my brush, I'll just wipe it off on a paper towel or tissue. You can always add clear water to blend it in a little bit more. now that the centre section is dry, I can add some highlights with my white charcoal pencil. The tortillon has dulled that a little bit, so if I want to give it a little bit more sparkle, I can use a white gel pen. So I'm going to just add a few little highlights. The highlighter looks a little bit scratchy, so once it's dry, I'm going to use my white charcoal pencil and blend that into the gel pen a little bit. As a final touch, I'm going to add some more ink just to neaten up the edges and make things stand out a little bit more. White gel pen can be your friend when it comes to touching up any areas that you might have gone over the line a little bit with the black or the watercolour paint. At this stage you could leave your tile like this, or you could colour in the background with black. It's entirely up to you. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on future videos. If you'd like to see more videos from me, you can click on the links on this screen or head over to my YouTube channel.